How are you guys doing? Today is Sunday, March 27th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review yesterday's Elite matchups and performances from Saturday, March 26th. I'm also going to preview everything that's going on today through every single sport that I'm going to cover, taking a quick step back and looking at where we are in the year, looking at where we are in the March Madness bracket because we are still in the midst of the second weekend of March Madness. In the men's side of the bracket, there are now 6 teams left competing for the 2022 title as we are halfway through the Elite 8 round. After the 2 games that are going to be played today, there will only be 4 teams left. On the women's side, there are 8 teams left as the Elite 8 round of that bracket starts today and will be done tomorrow. And of course, the Final Four in the championship for both brackets will be next weekend. Taking a look at what's going on in the NBA, teams are starting to seed themselves amongst one another as they prepare for the playoffs that are coming up, as teams have a single-digit amount of games left in their schedule. And in terms of soccer, we are on an international break as countries are still trying to seed themselves out for the upcoming FIFA World Cup that's going to be in Qatar. So with that said, taking a look at what happened with college basketball yesterday, starting with the men's tournament, looking at the first day of the Elite 8. Taking a look at the first Elite 8 matchup to take place yesterday, the first of 2. This, of course, would be the final in the South region as the 2-seed Villanova Wildcats, who won the Big East title this year, faced off against the 5-seed Houston Cougars, who made it into this tournament after winning the American Conference. Looking at how both teams made it to the South Regional Final, the 2-seed Villanova Wildcats would play their first 2 games in Pittsburgh. They would beat 15-seed Delaware by 20 in the first round before beating 7-seed Ohio State by 10 in the second round. In the Sweet 16, Villanova beat 11-seed Michigan by 8 in San Antonio to make it to this round. And of course, taking a look at how 5-seed Houston was able to make it to this round, with their first matchups being in Houston, they would beat 12-seed UAB by 14 in the first round before beating 4-seed Illinois by 15 in the second round. And in the Sweet 16, Houston would go on to beat the number 1 seed in this bracket, Arizona. They would go on to win that matchup by 12 in order to make it to this Elite 8 matchup. And in this Elite 8 matchup, the 2-seed Villanova Wildcats would be the first team to advance to the Final Four after beating 5-seed Houston 50-44. Villanova won this game by 6 after outscoring Houston by 7 in the first half. In their final game of the season, the 5th-seed Houston Cougars were led in scoring by their starting guard, Taze Moore. Their senior out of South Haven, Mississippi, would go on to finish with 15 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 steals, all in 35 minutes. He shot 6 for 21 from the field and made both of his free throws. On the winning end of this matchup, the 2-seed Villanova Wildcats were led in scoring by their starting forward, Jermaine Samuels. Their senior out of Franklin, Massachusetts, would go on to finish with 16 points and 10 rebounds in 33 minutes. He shot 6 for 10 from the field. He would shoot 1 for 2 from 3, and he would go on to make all 3 of his free throws. With this win, the 2-seed Villanova Wildcats, the 2021-22 Big East champs, would be the first team to advance to the Final Four as they are the South Region champs. They will advance to New Orleans as they will face off against the winner of the Midwest Regional Final today between 1-seed Kansas and 10-seed Miami. Taking a look at the second Elite 8 game yesterday to determine the second team to make it to the Final Four. In the West region, the 2-seed Duke Blue Devils out of the ACC would end up facing off against the 4-seed Arkansas Razorbacks, who were the last team remaining in the SEC. Looking at how these 2 teams got here, Duke's first 2 matchups were in Greenville, South Carolina, as they beat 15-seed Cal State Fullerton by 17 in the first round. They would then go on to beat 7-seed Michigan State by 9 in the second half. Once Duke made it to the Sweet 16, they would end up beating the 3-seed Texas Tech Red Raiders by 5 to make it to this round. Looking at how 4-seed Arkansas made it to this round, their first 2 matchups were in Buffalo as they beat 13-seed Vermont by 4 in the first round. They would then go on to beat 12-seed New Mexico State by 5 to make it to the Sweet 16. Once they made it out to San Francisco, Arkansas would beat the number 1 seed in this region, the 1-seed Gonzaga Bulldogs. And once Arkansas would make it to the Elite Eight against Duke. Duke would actually win this Elite Eight matchup to be the second team to punch their ticket to the Final Four. Duke would win this game 78-69. They won by 9 points after outscoring Arkansas by 12 in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the 4-seed Arkansas Razorbacks were led in scoring by their starting forward, Jalen Williams. In his final game of the season, the sophomore out of Fort Smith, Arkansas, would finish with 19 points, 10 rebounds, and a couple of steals in 34 minutes. He shot 8 for 17 from the field, and he shot a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the second seed Duke Blue Devils, representing my alma mater, would be led in scoring by their starting forward, A.J. Griffin. Their freshman out of White Plains, New York, would go on to finish with 18 points in 26 minutes. He shot 7 for 9 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Duke's starting center, Mark Williams, their sophomore out of Virginia Beach, would go on to finish with 12 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 blocks in 35 minutes. He shot a perfect 6 for 6 from the field. With this win, the second seed Duke Blue Devils out of the ACC will be the second team to punch their ticket to the Final Four. With a 32-6 record, they will face off against the winner of 8 seed UNC and 15 seed St. Peter's out of the East, as that game will be in New Orleans. They will either be slated to face off against their rival UNC, as they've never faced off against each other in March Madness, or they're going to face off against the first 15 seed to advance to the Final Four in history, as St. Peter's is already the first 15 seed to make it to the Elite Eight. So right now in the men's bracket, there are 6 teams that are left competing for the title. By the end of today, there will be 4. Looking at what's going on today in the second day of the Elite Eight round, at 2:20 on CBS, it will be the Midwest Regional Final in the United Center in Chicago, as the 1-seed Kansas Jayhawks will face off against the 10-seed Miami Hurricanes. Looking at how these two teams got here, first seed Kansas would make it through their first weekend after beating the play-in 16 seed Texas Southern team by 27 in the first round. They would go on to beat Creighton by 7, as both of those first games were in Fort Worth. And once Kansas made it to the Sweet 16, they ended up beating 4-seed Providence by 5. Looking at how 10-seed Miami got here, they won their first 2 games in Greenville. They beat 7-seed USC by a couple of points before beating 2-seed Auburn by 18. And in the Sweet 16, they would go on to beat 11-seed Iowa State. That matchup, they would win by 14 points, as that was a couple of days ago. The winner of this matchup will face off against 2-seed Villanova in the Final Four in New Orleans next week on the 2nd of April. And then, of course, taking a look at the final in the East region, the last Elite Eight matchup that's going to be played. At 5:05 on CBS in the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, the 8-seed North Carolina Tar Heels out of the ACC are going to face off against the St. Peter's Peacocks, who made it into the tournament after winning the MAAC to make it into this round. 8-seed North Carolina made it to the Elite Eight after they made it through their first weekend in Fort Worth after beating 9-seed Marquette by 32. They would then go on to beat 1-seed Baylor by 7. And in the Final Four, North Carolina beat 4-seed UCLA by 7 to make it to the Elite Eight. Taking a look at how 15-seed St. Peter's made it to the Elite Eight, they would end up forcing one of the biggest upsets of the year, if not the biggest upset of the year, by beating 2-seed Kentucky by 6 in overtime. In the second round, they would end up beating the 7-seed Murray State Racers by 10. And when St. Peter's made it into the Sweet 16, they would beat 3-seed Purdue by 3 points in order to make it here. The winner of UNC and St. Peter's in the East region will face off against the winner of the West region, Duke, in New Orleans in the Final Four on April 2nd. So that is what college basketball is looking like on the men's side. By the end of today, there will be 4 teams, but right now there are 6. Taking a look at what's going on the women's side of the bracket, the Sweet 16 round is officially over, as the 8 teams that have been selected for the Elite Eight have been officially selected. Taking a look first at the matchups that took place in the Bridgeport region to create that Elite Eight matchup. Starting with the 1-seed in the Bridgeport region, the 1-seed North Carolina State Wolfpack would face off against the 5-seed Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Looking at how these two teams made it to the Sweet 16 out of the ACC, 1-seed North Carolina State made it through their first weekend on their home court in Raleigh, North Carolina. They would beat 16-seed Longwood, who had to play in to make it into that round. And then once they made it to the second round, NC State would beat 9-seed Kansas State by 32 to make it to the Sweet 16. 5-seed Notre Dame played played their first weekend in Norman, Oklahoma, as they beat 12 seed UMass by 11 in the first round. They would then go on to beat the hometown 4 seed Oklahoma Sooners by 44 on their home court. In the Sweet 16 matchup, the 1 seed North Carolina State Wolfpack would beat the 5 seed Notre Dame Fighting Irish by 3. They won it 66-63 to advance to the Elite 8 round in the Bridgeport region. North Carolina State would win this game 66-63. They won by 3 points after outscoring Notre Dame by 10 in the fourth quarter to overcome their 7-point deficit. On the losing end of this matchup, the 5th seed Notre Dame Fighting Irish were led in scoring by their starting guard, Olivia Miles. Their freshman out of Phillipsburg, New Jersey, will go on to finish with 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists in 38 minutes. She shot 9 for 19 from the field. On the winning end of this matchup, the top seed North Carolina State Wolfpack were led in scoring by their starting center, Alyssa Cunane. Their senior out of Summerfield, North Carolina, would finish with 16 points and 10 rebounds in 37 minutes. She shot 5 for 10 from the field and 6 for 7 from the foul line. With this win, the top seed North Carolina State Wolfpack will advance to the Elite 8 with a 32-3 record. As they will face off against the 2 seed in the Bridgeport region, the UConn Huskies. I'm going to get into them in a second. And with this loss, the 5 seed Notre Dame Fighting Irish out of the ACC will finish their 2021-22 season with a 24-9 record. Looking now at the second matchup in the Bridgeport region, Sweet 16, the 2 seed UConn Huskies in the region would face off against 3 seed Indiana. 2 seed UConn would make it to the Sweet 16 round. They made it out of their first weekend in Storrs, Connecticut off of their home court after beating 15 seed Mercer by 45 in the first round, and then they would beat 7 seed UCF by 5 in the second round. 3 seed Indiana played their first 2 games on their home court in Bloomington, Indiana. They would beat 14 seed Charlotte by 34 in the first round before beating 11 seed Princeton by 1 in the second round. In the Sweet 16 matchup, the 2 seed UConn Huskies would beat the 3 seed Indiana Hoosiers 75-58. They won this game by 17 after outscoring Indiana by 13 in the second half. They would outscore Indiana in every single quarter of this game. On the losing end of this matchup in their final game of the season, the 3 seed Indiana Hoosiers were led in scoring by their starting guard, Allie Patberg. Their senior from Columbus, Indiana, would finish with 16 points in 36 minutes. She shot 7 for 9 from the field and 2 for 3 from 3. On the winning end of this matchup, the 2nd seed UConn Huskies were led in scoring by their starting guard, Paige Beckers. Their sophomore out of Hopkins, Minnesota, will go on to finish with 15 points in 33 minutes as she shot 7 for 17 from the field. Their other guard, Kristen Williams, their senior out of Little Rock, Arkansas, would also finish with 15 points as she had 6 rebounds in 32 minutes. She shot 7 for 11 from the field and made 1 of her 2 free throws. And then UConn starting forward, Olivia Nelson-Ododa, their senior from Winder, Georgia, will go on to finish with 10 points, 14 rebounds, and 2 steals in 30 minutes. She shot 5 for 9 from the field. With this win, the 2 seed UConn Huskies out of the Big East will advance to the Elite 8 of this bracket with a 28-5 record. They will play in their regional final against the top seed in their region, the top seed North Carolina State Wolfpack. This match will be tomorrow at 7 o'clock, as that will be the 3rd game to determine who goes to the Final Four. And then looking at the 2 matchups that took place in the Wichita region, starting off with the 1 seed in that bracket, the Louisville Cardinals would face off against the 4 seed Tennessee Lady Volunteers. Looking at how these 2 teams made it to the Sweet 16 in the first place, 1st seed Louisville played their first 2 matchups on their home court in Louisville, Kentucky. They would beat 16 seed Albany by 32 to make it to the second round, and then they would go on to beat 9 seed Gonzaga by 9 to make it to this round. 4 seed Tennessee played both of their first 2 games in Knoxville as they beat 13 seed Buffalo by 13 in the first half. They would go on to beat 12 seed Belmont from within the state by 3 points as well in order to make it into this round. And in the Sweet 16 matchup, the 1 seed Louisville Cardinals would beat the 4 seed Lady Vols 76-64. They would win this matchup by 12 after they outscored Tennessee by 11 in the first half. virtually carried that momentum through the end of the game. On the losing end of this matchup, the 4-seed Lady Volunteers were led in scoring by their starting guard, Ray Burrell. In her last game of the season, the senior out of Las Vegas, Nevada, will go on to finish with 22 points and 6 rebounds in 37 minutes. She shot 9 for 19 from the field and made both of her free throws. On the winning end of this matchup, the top seed Louisville Cardinals were led in scoring by their starting guard, Haley Van Lith. Their sophomore out of Wenatchee, Washington, will go on to finish with 23 points and 6 assists in 39 minutes. She shot 7 for 21 from the field and 9 for 10 from the foul line. Louisville starting forward, Emily Angstler, their senior out of New York, will go on to finish with 20 points and 10 rebounds, as well as 3 blocks in 33 minutes. She shot 7 for 12 from the field. She made all 3 of her 3-pointers. And with this win, the top seed Louisville Cardinals out of the Wichita region will advance to the Wichita Regional Final in the Elite Eight. They will face off against 3-seed Michigan. That game will be tomorrow at 9 o'clock. That will be the second game to determine who goes to the Final Four. And then looking at how Michigan got here, that was the last of the 8 Sweet 16 matchups for over the 2-day period. In the Sweet 16 matchup in the Wichita region, the 3-seed Michigan Wolverines would face off against the 10-seed South Dakota Coyotes. Second game in Wichita, Kansas on the day, right after Louisville beat Tennessee. Looking at how these teams got here, 3-seed Michigan made it through their first weekend in Ann Arbor after beating 14-seed American by 35. They would then go on to beat 11-seed Villanova by 15 in the second round. 10-seed South Dakota made it to the first round after beating 7-seed Ole Miss by 14. They would then go on to beat 2-seed Baylor in Waco by 14 points. In the Sweet 16 matchup, the 3-seed Michigan Wolverines would beat the 10-seed South Dakota Coyotes. They won this game by 3 after they outscored the Coyotes by 5 in the second half. It was a very close game for most of it. On the losing end of this matchup in their final game of the season, the 10th-seed South Dakota Coyotes were led in scoring by their starting center, Hannah Shervin. Their senior out of Rogers, Minnesota, would go on to finish with 17 points and 18 rebounds. She fouled out in 27 minutes as she shot 7 for 11 from the field and 3 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the 3-seed Michigan Wolverines were led in scoring by their starting forward, Naz Hillman. Their senior out of Cleveland will go on to finish with 17 points and 10 rebounds in 38 minutes. She shot 6 for 12 from the field, and she made all 5 of her free throws. With this win, the 3-seed Michigan Wolverines out of the Big Ten will advance to the Elite Eight round of the Wichita region with a 25-6 record. They will face off against the 1-seed Louisville Cardinals from their region at 9 o'clock. That will be the second second Elite Eight matchup of the second day tomorrow. And then, of course, with this loss, the 10-seed South Dakota Coyotes out of the Summit League will finish their 2021-22 season with a 29-6 record. Taking a look at the very first of the Elite Eight matchups that are going to be taking place today, because there are going to be 4 of them. There's going to be 2 today. At 7 o'clock on ESPN, we're going to see the final in the Greensboro region as the 1-seed South Carolina Gamecocks will face off against the 10-seed Creighton Blue Jays. First seed South Carolina made it to the Elite Eight after they beat 16-seed Howard by 58 points in the first round on their home court. They would then go on to beat 8-seed Miami by 16 in Columbia. Once they made it to the Sweet 16, they would beat 5-seed North Carolina by 8. Looking at how 10-seed Creighton got here, they played their first 2 matchups in Iowa City, Iowa. They would beat 7-seed Colorado by 10 in the first round before beating 2-seed Iowa by 2 in the second round. In the Sweet 16, Creighton would beat 3-seed Iowa State by 8 in order to make it here. And then taking a look at the second Elite Eight matchup that's going to be in the Spokane region, the number 1 seed in that bracket, the defending champs Stanford Cardinal, are going to face off against the 2-seed Texas Longhorns, as they are the second of the 4 1 seeds that are still remaining in the Elite Eight. First seed Stanford made it to this round. They made it through their first weekend on their home court in Stanford, California, after beating 16-seed Montana State by 41 in the first round. They would then go on to beat 8-seed Kansas by 26 in the second round. Once Stanford made it to the Sweet 16 in Spokane, they would end up beating Maryland by 6 points in order to make it here. Looking at how 2-seed Texas made it to this round, they would make it through their first round in Austin, Texas on their home court. After beating 15-seed Fairfield by 18 in the first round, they would beat 7-seed Utah by 22 in the second round before beating 6-seed Ohio State by 3 in the Sweet 16 in order to make it here. And after today, there will be 6 teams left competing for the 2022 women's title, as the Final Four will officially be selected on the men's side, as the men's bracket is a day ahead. That's what's going on with college basketball. Taking a look at what's going on with the NBA today, and of course, with that said, I'm going to get started in New Orleans. The New Orleans Pelicans would host the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs would go on to beat the Pelicans 107-103. Spurs won this game by 4 after outscoring the Pelicans by 4 in the fourth quarter, coming into the fourth quarter with a tie. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown New Orleans Pelicans were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard, CJ McCollum. He finished with 32 points and 6 rebounds alongside 4 assists in 35 minutes. He shot 12 for 25 from the field, 4 for 10 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. New Orleans point guard off the bench, Jose Alvarado, will go on to finish with 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists in 29 minutes. He shot 10 for 19 from the field and made his only free throw. And then the Pelicans starting center, Jonas Valanciunas, finished with 18 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists in 29 minutes. He shot 7 for 12 from the field. He made his only three-pointer, and he shot 3 for 5 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the San Antonio Spurs were led in scoring by their starting small forward out of Kentucky, Kelden Johnson. He finished with 21 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 36 minutes. He shot 9 for 17 from the field, and he made both of his free throws on the night. The Spurs all-star starting point guard DeJounte Murray finished with 15 points, 11 rebounds, and 13 assists, as well as 3 steals in 40 minutes. Murray shot 4 for 19 from the field and 7 for 8 from the foul line. The Spurs starting center, Jakob Poeltl, would finish with 12 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 blocks in 30 minutes. He shot 6 for 10 from the field. With this win, the San Antonio Spurs are now 30-44. That is currently the 5th worst record in the Western Conference, as they have now won their last 3 games and they've won 6 of their last 10. With 8 games left in their schedule, they are sitting 1 game behind the 10th place New Orleans Pelicans outside of the play-in picture looking in. With this loss, the New Orleans Pelicans are 31-43. That is the 10th best record in the Western Conference, as they've lost 6 of their last 10 games. Sitting at the bottom of the play-in picture, as they have 8 games left in their schedule, the Pelicans are sitting half a game behind the 9th place Los Angeles Lakers. They sit a game ahead of the San Antonio Spurs, the first team on the outside looking in, as they trail the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns by 21 games in the conference at the moment. Taking a look at what happened in Orlando, the Orlando Magic hosted the Sacramento Kings. The Kings would beat the Magic 114-110 in overtime after outscoring the Magic 9-10 in the overtime period. They also outscored the Magic by 13 in the first quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Magic were led in scoring by their starting small forward, their rookie out of Michigan, Franz Wagner. He finished with 19 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 steals in 34 minutes. Wagner shot 9 for 21 from the field and made his only free throw. Their starting center, Mo Bamba out of Texas, finished with 18 points, 13 rebounds, and 2 steals in 34 minutes. He shot 7 for 14 from the field and 4 for 6 from 3. On the winning end of this matchup, the Sacramento Kings were led in scoring by their starting point guard, their rookie out of the defending champs Baylor Bears, Davion Mitchell. Mitchell finished with 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists in 45 minutes. He shot 10 for 23 from the field. Their starting power forward out of Kentucky, Trey Lyles, finished with 11 points and 18 rebounds in 36 minutes. He shot 3 for 12 from the field and a perfect 4 for 4 from the free throw line. With this win, the Sacramento Kings are now 27-48. That is the 3rd worst record in the Western Conference, as they've won their last 2 games and they've won 3 of their last 10. As the Kings currently have 7 games left in their schedule, they are sitting 4.5 games behind the 10th place New Orleans Pelicans outside of the Western playoff picture looking in. They are still eligible for a playoff spot as they have not been eliminated, but the Magic, on the other hand, with this loss, they are now 20-55. That is the worst record in the Eastern Conference, and they are tied with the Houston Rockets for the worst record in the NBA. They've lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 6 of their last 10. With 7 games left in their schedule, the Magic are sitting exactly 17.5 games behind the 10-seed Atlanta Hawks in the Eastern Conference. Right now, the Magic are one of 3 teams in the Eastern Conference who have been eliminated from playoff contention this season. Taking a look at what happened north of the border in Toronto, the Raptors hosted the Pacers. The Raptors would beat the Pacers 131-91. They won this game by 40 to clinch a winning record this season with their 42nd win. They would win this game by 40 after they outscored the Pacers by 20 in the first quarter. They outscored the Pacers by 28 in the first half, and then they would outscore the Pacers by 14 in the fourth quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Indiana Pacers were led in scoring by their starting small forward, O'Shea Brissett. He finished with 21 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 steals in 38 minutes. He shot 9 for 16 from the field. And on the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Toronto Raptors were led in scoring by their starting power forward, Pascal Siakam. He would go on to finish with 23 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 steals in 31 minutes. He shot 10 for 15 from the field, and he shot 2 for 4 from the foul line. Their power forward off the bench, Chris Boucher, finished with 15 points and 10 rebounds in 30 minutes. He shot 6 for 10 from the field and made both of his free throws. The Raptors starting shooting guard, their all-star out of Wichita State, Fred VanVleet, finished with 5 points, 2 rebounds, and 3 assists in 17 minutes. VanVleet shot 2 for 4 from the field and made one of his 2 3-pointers on the night. With this win, the Toronto Raptors are 42-32. That is the 6th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've now won their last 2 games. They've won 8 of their last 10. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit a game behind the 5th place Chicago Bulls, and they sit a game ahead of the 7th place Cleveland Cavaliers. With 8 games left in their schedule, they sit 4.5 games behind the Eastern Conference leading Philadelphia 76ers for the time being. With this loss, the Indiana Pacers are now 25-50. They've lost 2/3 of their games this season. They've lost their last 3 games, and they've lost 7 of their last 10. As the Pacers have 7 games left in their schedule, they are currently sitting 12.5 games behind the 10th place Atlanta Hawks outside of the Eastern Conference play-in picture out east. They are one of 3 teams in the Eastern Conference alongside the Detroit Pistons and the Orlando Magic who have failed to qualify for playoff contention, at least at this point in the season. And so that is what the Pacers are looking like. Taking a look at what happened in Cleveland, the Cavaliers hosted the Chicago Bulls. In this divisional matchup, the Bulls would beat the Cavaliers 98-94. The Bulls won this game by 4 after outscoring the Cavaliers by 12 in the first quarter. They were up by 18 at halftime before the Cavaliers came back, but it just wouldn't be enough. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Cavaliers would be led in scoring by their all-star starting point guard out of Vanderbilt, Darius Garland. Garland finished with 28 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals in 44 minutes. He shot 9 for 22 from the field and 9 for 11 from the foul line. And then their rookie starting center, Evan Mobley, had 9 points and 11 rebounds. On the winning end of this matchup, the Chicago Bulls were led in scoring by their all-star starting shooting guard out of UCLA. Zach Levine finished with 25 points and 3 assists in 39 minutes. He shot 8 for 17 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3, and 7 for 8 from the foul line. The Bulls' all-star starting small forward out of USC, DeMar DeRozan, finished with 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists in 35 minutes. He shot 8 for 17 from the field and 4 for 5 from the free throw line. With this win, the Chicago Bulls are 43-31. That is the 5th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they've now won 4 of their last 10 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit 3 games behind the 2-way tie of the Boston Celtics and the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks for the 3rd best record in the East. The Bulls sit a game ahead of the sixth-place Toronto Raptors, and as they currently have 8 games left in their schedule, they are sitting 3.5 games behind the first-place Philadelphia 76ers, as even at this moment, the Eastern Conference is still up for grabs. With this loss, the Cleveland Cavaliers are now 41-33. That is the 7th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've now lost their last 3 games, and they've lost 6 of their last 10. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit a game behind the 6th-place Toronto Raptors. They sit 2 games ahead of the 8th-place Brooklyn Nets. And with 8 games left in their schedule, they sit 5.5 games behind the first-place Philadelphia 76ers. So at this moment, they are still eligible to even claim the top spot at this moment in time. Taking a look at what happened in Miami, the Miami Heat, who came into this matchup with the best record in the East, hosted the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets would beat the Heat 110-95. They won this game by 15 after outscoring the Heat by 19 in the second quarter. They would outscore the Heat by 26 in the middle 2 quarters combined. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Miami Heat were led in scoring by their starting center out of Kentucky, Bam Adebayo. He finished with 14 points and 6 rebounds, as well as 2 blocks in 24 minutes. He would go on to shoot 5 for 8 from the field, and he even shot 4 for 6 from the foul line as well. Their elite starting small forward, Jimmy Butler, finished with 7 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists in 25 minutes. He would go on to shoot 2 for 9 from the field and 3 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Brooklyn Nets were led in scoring by their goated starting power forward out of Texas, the 2-time NBA Finals MVP Kevin Durant. He would go on to finish with 23 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, and 5 turnovers in 31 minutes. He would go on to shoot 7 for 14 from the field, and he would shoot 9 for 10 from the foul line. Their starting center, Andre Drummond, finished with 13 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 steals in 18 minutes. He shot 6 for 11 from the field. The Nets' elite starting point guard and NBA champion Kyrie Irving would finish with 11 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals in 30 minutes. He shot 4 for 11 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3, and he made both of his free throws on the night. With this win, the Brooklyn Nets are now 39-35. That is the 8th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won 7 of their last 10 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit 2 games behind the 7th place Cleveland Cavaliers. They sit a game ahead of the 9th place Charlotte Hornets. As the Nets are currently sitting with 8 games left in their schedule, they are still technically eligible to even take the first spot away from the Philadelphia 76ers. If a situation like that ever presents itself, they are still eligible for that top spot. With this loss, the Miami Heat are 47-28. That is now the 2nd best record in the Eastern Conference win percentage-wise, as they have the most wins in the Eastern Conference. The Heat have now lost their last 4 games, as they've lost 6 of their last 10. Their 4-game losing streak is the longest active losing streak in the Eastern Conference, and it is the longest active losing streak in the NBA, as they still have the most wins in the East. In that Eastern Conference playoff picture, they have one more win and 1 more loss than the 76ers, so they're sitting about even with them. They are sitting half a game ahead of the 2-way tie of the Boston Celtics and the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks for the 3rd best record in the NBA, to get a sense of how close the top 4 spots in the East are. Jumping out to Memphis, the Memphis Grizzlies hosted the Milwaukee Bucks, another team sitting at the top 4 in the East. The Grizzlies would go on to beat the Bucks 127-102. They won this matchup by 25 after they went on to outscore the Bucks in every single quarter. They outscored the Bucks by 11 in the first half and then by 12 in the second. On the losing end of this matchup, the Milwaukee Bucks they were outscored by 13. The Grizzlies outscored the Bucks by 13 in the first half and then 12 in the second. On the losing end of this matchup, the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks were led in scoring by the reigning NBA Finals MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Greek Freak would go on to finish with 30 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 blocks in 28 minutes. He shot 11 for 20 from the field and 8 for 10 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Memphis Grizzlies were led in scoring Before I get to the Grizzlies, the Bucks all-star starting small forward Chris Middleton finished with 16 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 turnovers in 29 minutes. He shot 5 for 16 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. Now, on the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Memphis Grizzlies were led in scoring by their shooting guard off the bench, DeAnthony Melton. He finished with 24 points and 3 steals in 22 minutes. He shot 8 for 11 from the field, 6 for 9 from 3, and 2 for 4 from the foul line. The Grizzlies starting shooting guard out of TCU, Desmond Bane, finished with 20 points, 5 assists, and 2 steals in 28 minutes. He shot 9 for 19 from the field. The Grizzlies starting point guard out of Duke, Tyus Jones, finished with 13 points and 10 assists in 29 minutes. He shot 4 for 9 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Memphis Grizzlies are now 52-23. That is the second best record in the Western Conference. They've now won their last 4 games as they've won 8 of their last 10. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they sit 8.5 games behind the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns, as the Grizzlies have 7 more games left in their schedule. They are not eligible to take that first spot from the Suns, but they are the only other team to have clinched a playoff spot in the Western Conference playoff picture. At the moment, they sit 3.5 games ahead of the third place Golden State Warriors as well. With this loss, the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks are now 46-28. They are now tied with the Boston Celtics for the third best record in the Eastern Conference, as the Bucks have now lost 3 of their last 10. In this Eastern Conference playoff picture, alongside the Boston Celtics, they sit half a game behind the Philadelphia 76ers, who are holding the best record in the East. And, of course, the Heat are sitting right alongside them, so they're sitting right behind the two-way tie in the race. Not to mention that the Bucks are sitting 3 games ahead of the 5th place Chicago Bulls, as right now they're trying to lock up home court advantage, as the Bucks are currently sitting with 8 games remaining in their schedule this season. And then taking a look at what happened in the Mile High City in Denver, the Nuggets hosted the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Nuggets would beat the Thunder 113-107. They would win this game by 6 after outscoring Oklahoma City by 9 in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Thunder would be led in scoring by their starting point guard, Teo Maledon, their rookie. He went on to finish with 20 points, 2 steals, and 5 turnovers in 32 minutes. He shot 6 for 13 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and he made all 6 of his free throws on the night. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Denver Nuggets would be led in scoring by the reigning season MVP, Nikola Jokic. Jokic went on to finish with 35 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks in 35 minutes. He shot 13 for 15 from the field and 9 for 10 from the foul line. The Nuggets starting power forward Aaron Gordon would finish with 20 points and 9 rebounds in 35 minutes. He would go on to shoot 8 for 17 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and he would go on to make both of his free throws on the night. With this win, the Denver Nuggets are now 44-31. That is the 6th best record in the Western Conference, as they've won 5 of their last 10 games. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they sit 1.5 games behind the two-way tie of the Utah Jazz and the Denver Nuggets for the 4th and 5th spots. And right now, they are sitting a game ahead of the 7th place Minnesota Timberwolves, as the Nuggets have 7 more, or the Nuggets right now have 7 games left in their schedule. The highest seed that they can possibly get at this moment is the 3rd seed right now. With this loss, the Oklahoma City Thunder are 21-53. That is the 2nd worst record in the Western Conference, as they've lost 9 of their last 10 games. As they have 8 games left in their schedule, they sit 10 games behind the 10th place New Orleans Pelicans outside the Western Conference playoff picture. Alongside the Houston Rockets, the Thunder are one of 2 teams to have failed to have qualified for the Western Conference, at least the play-in picture, at this very moment. Last but not least, jumping out to Portland, speaking of the Rockets would face off against the Trailblazers in Portland, and the Rockets would beat the Trailblazers 115-98. They would win this game by 17 to be the last team in the NBA to cross the 20-win threshold this season. They would beat the Blazers by 17 after outscoring the Blazers by 17 in the second half. They outscored them by 10 in the fourth quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Portland Trail Blazers were led in scoring by their starting power forward, Trendon Watford, and their starting point guard, Brandon Williams. Trendon Watford finished with 15 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 6 turnovers in 30 minutes. He shot 7 for 11 from the field and made one of his 2 free throws. Brandon Williams finished with 15 points and 8 assists in 34 minutes. He shot 6 for 15 from the field and he made both of his free throws. The Blazers starting power forward, Drew Eubanks, finished with 14 points, 16 rebounds, and 2 steals in 33 minutes. He shot 5 for 10 from the field. On the winning end of this matchup, the Houston Rockets were led in scoring by their center off the bench, Alperen Sengun. He finished with 27 points and 7 rebounds in 26 minutes. He shot 10 for 16 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3 as well. The Rockets starting shooting guard, their number 2 overall pick from last year, Jalen Green, finished with 25 points and 6 rebounds in 32 minutes. He shot 9 for 17 from the field, 6 for 11 from 3, and he made one of his 2 free throws on the night. Their starting shooting guard, Kevin Porter Jr. out of USC, finished with 10 points and 11 assists in 30 minutes. He shot 4 for 11 from the field. With this win, the Houston Rockets are now 20-55. That is the worst record in the Western Conference, and that is also the worst record in the NBA. They are tied with the Orlando Magic for the worst record. The Rockets have won their last 2 games, and they've won 4 of their last 10. They are with 7 games left in their schedule, they are currently sitting 11 and a half games behind the 10th place New Orleans Pelicans. They and the Thunder are the 2 teams in the Western Conference that at this moment have failed to qualify for a playoff spot in the Western Conference. And as we get closer and closer to the end of the season, we're going to see more teams qualify for playoff spots and more teams get eliminated day by day. But that is what the NBA is looking like as we are led into today's matchups for Sunday. I'm taking a look at what is, of course, going on today. The primetime matchup is going to be at 7:30 on NBA TV in the Barclays Center, as the Brooklyn Nets, who are currently holding the 8th best record in the East, are going to host the Charlotte Hornets, who hold the 9th best record in the East. Both teams enter this matchup having won 7 of their last 10 games. The Hornets are currently sitting 6 games ahead of the Knicks, who are the first team on the outside looking in. And then, of course, the Brooklyn Nets are currently sitting 1 game ahead of the Hornets as they sit 2 games behind the 7th place Cleveland Cavaliers. Looking at the games that aren't going to be on primetime at 3:30, the Detroit Pistons are going to host the New York Knicks in Little Caesars Arena in Detroit at 3:30. At 6 o'clock, the Boston Celtics are going to host the Minnesota Timberwolves as the Celtics look to hopefully take the best record in the East. At 6 o'clock at the same time, the Washington Wizards are going to host the Golden State Warriors in Capital One Arena. At 6, the Western Conference and NBA leading Phoenix Suns are going to host the Philadelphia 76ers in the Footprint Center. At 7 o'clock, it'll be a 9-10 matchup in the West as the 10-seed New Orleans Pelicans are going to host the 9-seed Los Angeles Lakers. At 7:30, last but not least, the Dallas Mavericks are going to host the Utah Jazz in the American Airlines Center. Taking a look at what's going on with the soccer matchups from yesterday, as we are coming from an international break. There were a bunch of international friendlies yesterday, as Croatia drew with Slovenia 1-1. Finland drew with Iceland 1-1. Belgium would draw with the Republic of Ireland 2-2. England would beat Switzerland 2-1 as their second goal was a penalty kick from their elite striker, Harry Kane. Spain would go on to beat Albania 2-1. Germany would beat Israel 2-0 as their 2 goals would come from their elite German midfielders, Kai Havertz in the 36th minute, and they would also get a goal from their German forward Timo Werner. Netherlands would go on to beat Denmark 4-2 as Denmark would see a goal scored from their captain Christian Eriksen after he fell not that long ago at the Euros. Netherlands would see 2 goals from their midfielder Bergwijn, and then they would also see a penalty kick from their elite forward Memphis Depay. But that's virtually everything that I have to you from yesterday. But taking a look at what's going on today, as we still have a bunch of international matchups to be going on. Looking at the FIFA World Cup qualifying matchups in North America first, Canada will host Jamaica. The Canada-Jamaica game will be at 4:05. The United States will host Panama at 7. Honduras will host Mexico at 7:05. I'm looking at and then other than that, there are going to be some international friendlies, but that's virtually everything that I have for you as we navigate through this world of sports one day at a time. Once all of today's exhibitions and matchups are done, I'm going to come back tomorrow on Monday, March 28th for another episode. And until then, I want to thank everyone for listening. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with more tomorrow. And until then, thank you, and thanks for listening to my piece. I do want to thank the ESPN, the NCAA, NBA, and FIFA websites for giving me all the facts and figures that I needed. Without them, I wouldn't be able to do this. But with that said, I once again want to thank everyone for listening. I hope all is well, and I will catch you with more tomorrow. Peace out.